what advice would you give to any businesses watching this who want to know how to make it in a male-dominated world like that?
I think the biggest lesson that I have learned doing what I do has been to be my authentic self. And I know it sounds really kind of obvious, but when I came into punditry in particular, I remember being surrounded by all of these blokes and, I mean, some legends. I mean, like Johnny Wilkinson, Clive Woodward, all of these big names. I remember thinking, I need to be like the lads. And I thought, let me talk about football. And then I sort of like lost respect after that. But I basically got to a stage where I was like, I wasn't being my authentic self. And actually, people saw right through me. And even the people that I worked with weren't being their authentic self because they felt like they couldn't debate with me. They couldn't disagree with me. They felt like they had to go along with that. And as a result of that, I lost credibility. And then I reached a point where I spoke to a male ally, and he said, Maggie, just be yourself. You know, we're in entertainment business. People want to see you, your personality, your character. They want to know your opinions. And actually, after that, I'm my authentic self. And do you know what the reality is? Half of the people who are watching are going to hate me. Half of them are going to like me. But who do I want to speak to? And now I always make sure I'm my authentic self. And I encourage those that I work with in the corporate world to also be their authentic self. And I guarantee you have greater influence. People follow people who they trust. That makes such a big difference. So that's what I try and do.
Definitely don't be intimidated by anyone or anything. I very clearly remember in my very first job as a junior kind of analyst in a think tank in the first organization I worked for, a male superior came to me and asked me, can you brief me on the situation in Iraq and Syria? Are there any German troops there? I have to go onto BBC in 10 minutes. And he had absolutely, I'm sorry to say that, but he had absolutely, I'm also not going to name names, but he had absolutely no
Tell
clue.
me later.
And I briefed him then, and I was thinking, wow, would a woman do that as well? And I was really unsure because I also could see how often I was doubting myself. And I actually took a lot more courage from that and perhaps even being a bit bolder and actually doing things that are at the verge of what you can do. But then, of course, preparing carefully. But I knew I had done the research, and then the next interview came in from the BBC, and I actually decided I'll just do it, whatever.
I suppose doing the research is the analogy of the handbag, right? You're just super prepared for what's to come.
Exactly.
I think that quite often when we think about supporting other women, we're thinking about helping people, mentoring people, going on social media and supporting women. But it's also actually about how you treat yourself. Because the more you stand up for yourself, the more you're helping other women. The more you're not tolerating bad behavior and you're calling it out, even though that's sometimes really difficult, the more you're helping other women. So I think it's both of those things.
It's really interesting you said that, because sometimes there is an element, isn't there, of it doesn't affect me, so why should I care? Do you not think that that's an element as well that might help if we change that mindset?
Yeah, I completely think so as well. And one of the things I was going to say is that I also feel like we judge each other a lot more. Women judge each other, and we are also less cooperative in general, whereas men help each other a lot more and are less competitive. I think they are competitive, of course, but I think women often perceive another woman as potential competition rather than someone they would see as a sister. There's often that more of an alliance taking shape among men, more of a brotherhood. We see it with the broligarchs now, where all of a sudden all these tech leaders are actually aligned.
Tech bros,
exactly. They're aligned and they help each other now, and they also now help Trump. And it's all, they're overcoming the differences. And I think we often fail to overcome differences, whether that's based on politics, whether that's based on gender, on ethnicity. I think women are fundamentally often more suspicious of one another, and that is something that is sometimes preventing us from actually honestly helping each other.
I think to jump on the back of that, I think the challenge that we have as society has always made it feel like there's only space for one. So if I'm truly honest with you, so if I look at my situation, I currently work in broadcasting, there's usually only space for one woman. So if that, and there's a real intention of that. So you can imagine how many female pundits and commentators are fighting over for that one position. So unfortunately, we do become quite competitive and we're pushing each other down. I also work in sports governance. I'm on a council. When I came onto the council, I was the third woman, 56 people, third woman. I was the only person of colour. Again, I effectively tick every box. And there was only one space. If I'm really honest, there was only one space for one person like me. And then you become competitive, and then for some reason, I'm pushing down those which should be trying to bring up. And that's why my attitude has very much changed now. So in the world of media in particular, I work really hard to make sure I pull others up, because I do not want it to be just me.